We have 4 writers joining us today from my writing groups who wrote these stories in 13 minutes during a class on adaptation and one on suffering. Okay. So we, obviously the war in Ukraine began when we were doing this class, and so it's affected all of our stories. Poet Elena said, poems and stories give us voice, even in our voicelessness, even when our hearts and tongues are breaking. But at least as importantly, they teach us how to listen. And that's what we're going to do today. Listen to ourselves in the midst of so much world noise, learn how to listen to each other and listen across centuries forward and back, and even across species. When you hear Maureen Eke's piece, she has a beautiful piece with horses in it. So today we're going to listen. We have Amber Poole here. I think she's here under Paul. And Amber, are you here? I think she's joined us under Paul Cannon. Anyway, so we have a special guest from Poland, from the Sechel Educational Foundation. Amber, if she is here, got up at 1 a.m. to be with us. She's taken in 38 Ukraine refugees and is writing stories every day to share with her benefactors. And so thank you everyone for joining us. I do believe story will save the world. It's our best chance, because when we connect through story, we connect spiritually, right? When we write, we heal something deep inside ourselves, and then we pass that on to the reader and the listener. Because so many of you here are also writers, and we're all storytellers. I will give you an idea at the end of how some of this writing evolved. There's magic in the process of writing for 13 minutes, but that's not just what we do. We absorb work from many other writers before we go in to write our own stories. So let's see, all the stories you'll hear are just fresh out of the oven the last 2 weeks. And after the event, there'll be an opportunity for a Q&A with the writers. Any questions for Amber will come first, since it's the middle of the night in Poland. And I'd like to welcome our first reader, Maureen Eke. I met Maureen at the Kauai Writers Conference years ago. I walked up to her and asked who she was and if I could join her. Since that fateful day, I've walked beside Maureen as a friend, inspirer. It's really hard to call myself her teacher because Maureen is a professor, and the truth is every week her stories teach me. I've had the honor of writing with her in our Sunday groups, which we call Word Church. She unfolds mythology in her stories with the 9 other women every Sunday, and it's really hard to sum up Maureen in a bio. But I will tell you, as a writer, she's as strong as Maya Angelou and as lyrical as Toni Morrison, a professor of literature in Central Michigan University, on the city council. Maureen often includes songs in her stories and sings to us, even though we don't know the language she sings in. The words enter our souls like a balm. So mostly I'm grateful for her mother, who made sure all her children, 5, survived the Biafran genocide, so Maureen could be here today to grace us with this story. Thank you. Maureen. Hi, Maureen. I can't hear you. You have to unmute yourself.
Thank you so much, Laura. You make me want to cry right now. My mother will say thanks to you. Thank you for having me. And I do appreciate everybody who is here today. We need this. We all need this. And so I offer you this, a piece of my life, with grace and also with gratitude to you for listening to me. Children of horses. 2 coups d'etats took place in Nigeria in 1966, one in January and the other in July. They led to the massacre of Southeasterners, mostly Igbos, in several cities in northern and western Nigeria. We were living in the northern Nigerian town of Zonkua then. This section of my story begins after the first coup, leading into our flight from Zonkwa to southeastern Nigeria, which will become Biafra in 1967. We are Igbos. I am Igbo. All summer, we heard more stories about the deaths of our people in faraway places. We worried. Papa said it will not reach us. Radio Kaduna continued to broadcast its song calling for the massacre of Nyamiri, the derogatory name they called Igbos in Hausa. Muje, Mukashe, Nyamiri, Muje, Mukeshe, Nyamiri, they sang. Papa and the other Igbo men continued to meet in a house late at night. They spoke in hushed tones. Then Igbo men from faraway places began to arrive in Zonkwa. They came in the middle of night. They had been hiding in swamps, in rivers, among trees, traveling at night and hiding during the day. They had walked for days to reach us. They looked like madmen, hungry, thirsty, and tired. They came without much clothing. They came to tell us of death. Dead bodies in churches, homes, and markets. Dead bodies of women, men, and children. Dead bodies of pregnant women whose unborn babies had been cut out of their wombs. Dead bodies strewn everywhere without limbs. It was a pogrom. It was only the beginning. One night, Papa came home from work. He announced that another man had come from Zaria. He was almost dead. When Mama returned from selling food at the train station, she collapsed in her bedroom.
I don't know. So I want to be absolutely sure.
She told us about the women in the trains. They were crying. Their husbands and friends had been massacred. The children were crying and hungry. The train was crying. The women did not have money for food, so Mama gave away her yams and bananas. Mama did not want to sell anymore. She was tired. She was afraid. Papa said we were safe. Mama said the trains were full of just umunwanyi n'umuhi, just women and their children. Women and their children. Just women and their children. Papa said we were like Israelites fleeing from Egypt. Mama said the trains traveling through Zonkwa were packed full. They strained. They strained under the weight of people and things spilling over the sides and doors. The trains arrived at Zonkwa station with their windows shut. Mama said people were afraid. She said the trains brought us the cries of women and their children. Mama was now sick. She wanted to go home. She started to pack up our things. Papa said, wait. By the end of October, thousands of my people, estimates say about 30,000 were killed. Nothing happened. The federal government of Nigeria did nothing to protect us. The world community did not hear our cries, nothing. Papa and Mama devised a protocol. Afternoons, we stayed at home. Lock the doors. Don't answer anyone. Pretend you're not home. Those were our instructions. Do not cook. No noise. We stopped singing. We didn't play outside. 7 siblings with their dog stayed hidden. Our dog stopped barking and sat with us all day and watched. Mama went to her shops in the market only a few times. Then she closed them. Papa stopped working late and came home early from work. Then he stopped going. Nights found us packed up. We fled quietly like ants, more like mice, to our friends on the other side of our neighborhood, away from the Hausas. Igbo families in the other parts of town joined us and huddled in one compound. They were safe together. Then the parents separated the children and sent us to the homes of local friends, non-Igbos, whom they trusted to keep their children safe. We went to our hiding places every night, knowing death was close. These friends hid us, becoming our surrogate parents should ours die before morning. Sometimes we hid under the beds until that was no longer safe. Then we were hidden in the bathrooms where we inhaled Izol and Dettol that burnt our nostrils, but we came to love them. We smelled like pine saw, but we could not sleep. Once Papa hid my sister and me with a friend who had horses. Sister was barely 8 and I was a few years older. There, we found a home in the horse shed. We smelled the horse dung and came to love that too. But we slept the sleep of death. The last thing I remembered was the acrid smell of horse dung in whose warmth we sought comfort. We woke in the morning smeared by the creamy yellowish matter from the insides of creatures whose bodies shielded us. We emerged, horse and humans, centaurs in the age of a war, Equus ferus, domesticated by humans, ridden to war, now shielded us under siege. They stood watch over us like sentinels against an invading army. We used to watch these animals from afar on our way to school each day. We feared and admired them, dreading contact. But in this new dispensation, we lived with these charmed, now humane creatures. We nuzzled under them. We slept with them. We held onto them, desiring to crawl into their bodies to be saved from a world on the verge of collapse, whose only goal was to exterminate us. So when we woke up, we became the children of horses. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Absolutely stunning. Thank you. Okay. Just a moment. Thank you, Maureen, for being so vulnerable. Beautiful stories like this help us understand parts of history that we may be too young to have lived through or just weren't brought to America. The history of it wasn't brought to us. So thank you, Maureen. Our next story is Nancy Lapid. Her mother was born in Eastern Europe shortly before the end of World War I. Nancy's grandfather had the foresight to get his wife and children to America in the 1920s, but others in their large family didn't believe the Jews were in danger, and so they stayed. Some of the few who survived the 1930s and 1940s eventually came to live near Nancy's mother in America. Genocide survivor stories helped to shape Nancy's view of the world. Here's Nancy facing a big change in her own life. And as she tells us about this change in her own life, she calls on her ancestors. Hi, Nancy. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Soon, we will have to leave this house. We can't stay here. We have to move. Being busy at work has its blessings. I feel energized, productive, creative. I feel appreciated. I'll be keeping my job. Why be sad about having to move? I have lived at the seashore. I have lived in the city. Now I live in the woods. Soon I will leave the woods for the desert. Truly, I am fortunate to experience so much of the earth's treasures, and I am blessed to have a stepdaughter and son-in-law and grandchildren in the desert who love us. Every weekend, I pack boxes and boxes of things to give away, things it makes no sense to pay to move across the country. Decluttering, I call it, although my house isn't cluttered. It's just full of relics from my childhood home, my husband's life before me, my life before him, his mother's apartment, my stepdaughter's school days, her mother's things, and even belongings left by caregivers and various other loved ones who lived with us until they found their way again. Every weekend, I pack up boxes and bags, and a truck comes on Monday and picks it up to give it away. I hope our things end up with other people who find them useful. Some of the decluttering makes me feel accomplished, and some of it makes me sad. How can I be sad? I tell my friends, at least we are not in Ukraine. I am not being forced out by war. My house is not being bombed. We have jobs and food and shelter and hot showers. I will adapt to this move across the country to a smaller house, probably with no trees and a hot climate with a burning sun, far from my brother and my friends. My mother would be proud of me. She made sure I knew my family's stories of adaptation. My grandfather in Washington, D.C. became a widower when his firstborn son was only 1 day old, and he adapted. My grandmother in Europe lost her first child when he was 2. She went from being a mother to not being a mother. She adapted somehow. This same grandmother gave birth to her second child, one of my mother's older brothers, on August 4th, 1914, the day World War I broke out. When I see newborn babies in bomb shelters in Ukraine, I think of my grandmother in Austria, in Czernowitz, a city that's now in Ukraine, with a newborn baby riding with her mother in a horse-drawn cart, evacuating to Vienna. She adapted. My parents lost their health and they adapted. One of my mother's cousins, who was really more like an aunt to me, told me this story of her own childhood in the 1940s. She said, in part, when I was 9 years old, I was sent away with my family. At night, in the dark, they put us on a barge to travel the Dniester to the Ukraine. The barge was overcrowded with people and horses and wagons. People fell into the water and people were pushed and thrown into the water and left to drown. When the barge docked at Mogilev in Transnistria, we tried to find a place to hide. Everything was destroyed. We ran from broken house to broken house. I don't know how we survived the first few weeks. We looked from our hiding places and saw bodies being thrown into pits. Later, they kidnapped my father and my brother. Today, it breaks my heart that the same thing is happening again in the same places. I recognize the names of the cities and towns where grown-ups and children are hiding in war-torn buildings where bodies are still being thrown into pits. I am so tired, so sad, so frustrated and disappointed, so drained of hope. But this cousin survived and grew up, and she learned to live with the trauma and overcome it. So who am I to say I can't adapt? Who am I to refuse to change? 20 years ago, when I moved here into this house with my husband and stepdaughter, my mother had just died the week before. Soon I started opening the boxes I'd moved with. I opened one box labeled Nancy's sweaters, but it wasn't my sweaters. It was full of my mother's scarves and gloves and nightgowns. Everything smelled like her perfume and her soap. It broke my heart. I buried my head in the box and I cried. Then I sealed the carton back up and I put it in the back of a closet in the basement. Last week, in my steady attempts at decluttering, I opened the same box, still labeled Nancy's sweaters, not remembering what was in it, and I saw once again my mother's treasures. They didn't smell like her anymore. I picked a few items to save and I gave the rest of the box away. I wasn't sad about it. I guess I've adapted, but hey, it's 20 years later. I need to pick up the pace to be ready for the ways in which my life is about to change. I will have to hold my memories close in my mind and in my heart and turn to them when I need to center myself in the universe. I will remind myself to draw strength from desert skies and warm desert winters and flowers that bloom with the monsoons. I will try not to despair because I can't heal the world, and I will bravely keep trying to heal my little corner of it. Thank you.
Oh, Nancy, so beautiful. Thank you for joining us and for sharing that story with us. You know, when we hear about these really complex journeys of our ancestors, it really reminds us that we have the courage, right, to face our own challenges. And Nancy reminds us of that every week, that we have it, we have the courage. Okay, John Pfendler is beside me now, and so I'm going to move over in a moment in a very high-tech way and have him take my chair. He lives in a home with a lot of babies, dogs, and cats and activities. So we decided to have John come here into my home. You know, so it's just easier. Years ago, John was in my house fixing something, and I think we talked about my books, and he asked what I did, and then the next day I had a poem in my mailbox, and it was a poem for his daughter that he had just adopted, and his teenage daughter. And he's joined our writing community and has created an incredible body of work. And he always makes Jane Sella Morgan cry every week in our living room. Every time John reads, Jane cries. We can count on it. A father of four daughters, he has this unique poetic ability to write in the voice of a woman. And also John's an avid historian. Like, he knew the last house I rented, he knew there was like a bomb shelter or some room underneath the earth. And I mean, he just knows everything about Kauai. So, and also the world, he's a historian of the world. And so John is going to read a poem to us today, and I'm going to move over so John can take my seat, and then I'll see you all in a minute.
Thank you, Laura.
Oh, wait, let me make me bigger. Sorry. Oh, there we go.
Thank you, Laura. This is about a woman in an apartment alone in Mariupol. I lay suffering in the cold bed. My body spasms with tides of pregnant pain. Only the shadow of loneliness hovers in the corners of the empty room. Sorrow, my mother, and sister Levity are far off, seeking purpose and meaning in the shallow end of enlightenment. Gone, so lost, so alone in my chasm of need. I've heard it's saintly to suffer, but I don't care. I'm not Mother Teresa. I'm not even Catholic or even a Stoic Buddhist. The hours plod by without notice or number. Darkness perching outside the window, a raptor awaiting my demise. Acrid smoke stains white curtains. Why can't the numbness in my head flow into this body, racked with clinching waves of anguish? The love that shone so brightly in the flower of the day, now hiding on the dark side of a crescent moon. Those whispers of adoring love, only hollow echoes in this apartment of abandon. Through the frosty window, the stars of Pleiades shine through a cloud gap, indifferent to my plight, with all the hope of heaven in their twinkling eyes, and not a sip of water in their cupping hands. Wool blankets pulled over my head, not to see what I am feeling, my teeth set against each other like trenched armies at war, blowing hard through whistling teeth to ride the pain. It's coming again, building upon the ruins of all other pains. Between grasping breaths, snatched from the cold air, as if they are the last breaths on earth. Just when unbearable rises to the acute, the tide turns once more to pause and the deception of relief. Sweating fists grip the sheets. then once again plunge into the valley of torment. And so the arms of the long night reach for the gray promise of the dawn. With the rising sun, the child comes forth, screaming her entry into life. Suffering bites through the cord that binds them and knots it firmly. With baby at her breast, she pulls herself to the window. Is this April snow? Oh God, it's drifts of cherry blossoms on the brick walkway amongst the bomb craters in the park below. Born in despair, I will name my daughter Empathy. Thank you.
Thank you, John. That was beautiful. Oh, okay. Rilke said there's only one form of liberation for those who are continually submerged in suffering, and this is to elevate suffering to the level of one's own perspective and to transform it into an aid for one's way of seeing. And John's poem came out of a class we did on suffering, where we made a list of all the senses, including our sixth sense. And I believe our job as storytellers is to respond to suffering, your own, your friends, your family, and make meaning of it, to shape and reshape and mold and remold this complex reality of being alive in the world today where suffering has always existed, right? And I say, carve out your own trench in your own wars where you invite your friends and share bread, a poem, a story, like we're all doing today. It helps us carry the suffering and release it. It's a huge part of what makes bearable an unbearable world. Our next reader, and then Amber is here. I changed her name on the screen so you can all see her. Our next reader is Nancy London, who has an incredibly beautiful blog. She is one of the original authors of Our Bodies, Ourselves, and the author of Hot Flashes, Warm Bottles, First Time Mothers Over 40. She's worked for assisting the dying and their families, and her grief work shows up in all her stories. Nancy lives in Santa Fe with her husband of 34 years. Her writing is a spiritual balm and a call to be awake. That's how I would introduce you, Nancy. There.
Mute myself. There you go.
Nancy, there you go.
You know how to boil a lobster, right? You put it in a pot of cold water and slowly raise the heat. Turn up the flame while the lobster is cruising around thinking he's at a spa until he's not, until he's bright red, scratching at the sides of the pot, and then kaput, dead. This is how I feel now, like I am adapting to something too horrible to name, but I'm going to try. Here's the list. I'm slowly adapting to senators advocating for the overthrow of our government. I'm adapting to seeing white bears hop from one ice floe to another looking for home. I'm adapting to the next school shooting and the next and the one after that. I'm adapting to AK-47s for sale in Walmart. I'm adapting to severe drought and torrential floods. I am adapting to brown-skinned people starving to death in countries I cannot find on a map. The heat is being turned up, and ooh baby, it is getting warm. And of course you know where I'm heading. I'm heading home to Ukraine, where all 4 of my grandparents were born. Kyiv, Odessa, Polonia, where the bones of my ancestors are twisting and turning in their unmarked graves. Now I'm beginning to sweat. I'm turning red. I'm scratching at the sides of the pot. There's nowhere else to look. There's no way to silence the screams. There's no way to hit rewind so that the maternity hospital is brick by brick put back in place. The fires go out, the planes disappear. I can no longer adapt. I can't stop looking. I can't stop carrying the children on my hip with me every day into the grocery store, out for a walk, out to feed the birds. I am at the boiling point inside this pot. And if I don't face the ways I have learned to adapt, I will deserve nothing better than to be served on a white china plate. To the CEO of the oil company who is profiting from this war, I will open one boiled lobster eye and watch him get ready to tear me limb from limb. Please, I am not saying I am not grateful. I am on my knees with gratitude for the blessings of my life every day, twice a day. I am saying this is not the time to adapt, to move ahead as if the way the world turns, the inevitable course of evolution, hey, we've been here before and it all works out in the end. Jesus, Buddha, Mohammed, the elusive Holy Ghost, isn't it time you shattered the heavens with your trumpets to remind us that this is no time to adapt while the children lie bleeding and the mothers are wailing? Help me, I whisper every morning. Help me climb out of this hot pot and pick up my sword. Thank you.
Oh, Nancy, thank you so much. Okay. Nancy does that every week, by the way. It's an extraordinary piece. It's one of many extraordinary pieces that come out of her pen for all of us. Okay. Amber is with us. I had to change her name on the screen, and so we could all recognize her. And I want to thank her for waiting, because I know she got up in the middle of the night to be here. And I have to tell you, she's doing the hard work. You know, the work I think some of us wish we could do. We're so far away. I saved Amber for last because I'm guessing everyone here will have questions for her and will want to ask how they can help. I promise we will filter them down, Amber, to just a few questions so you can get some sleep tonight. Nancy London, who you just heard, sent me Amber's writing from her almost daily diary, War Stories. And I say almost daily diary because some days are more busy than others. She presides over the, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Sechel Educational Foundation. If we could get Amber on the screen, that would be great. Let me find her and get her on the screen.
You changed her name and I wasn't sure where it was. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, her name is her name. Oh, I'm sorry, Amber. I meant to say Amber. So here we go. I got her. Oops, now I left me off the screen. So let me put me on. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Hi, Amber. Thank you for coming. For some reason, I've been wanting to call you Amanda. I have no idea why. I have 6 Amandas I write with, but Amber manages. I want to tell you a little bit about Amber. She, you know, has this family home that's actually a manor. And so that's why she can have 38 women and children in her home. It supports and hosts groups of a spiritual nature prior to this war. You know, has silent retreats. She's a vegan vegetarian kitchen. And she is going to read us about a woman who took over her kitchen recently. And guests over the years are writers, artists, musicians, academics, inclined to stay for weeks while perfecting their art, their paintings, their stories, their thesis. And I want to just point out, and for those of you who don't know, Poland is leading the world in the number of refugees pouring into the country. And one night recently, I stayed up till 2 a.m. reading all the diary entries that I had been sent. And oh my gosh, Amber, I just want to thank you for your humor, also your humanity, and the work you and your husband, Paul, I don't want to leave your husband out of it, because her husband takes everyone into the city to do the paperwork, and Amber's sort of managing the home. And I'm going to take myself off the screen, and Amber's going to read us 2 diary entries. And so without any further ado, hi, Amanda. I mean, Amber, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for joining us. You have to unmute yourself, I think.
Okay.
There we go. There you are.
Thank you for having me, and it is late, so if I stumble, forgive me. Gosh, I feel really privileged to be here, and I don't know what to say. It's just I feel very grateful to have been invited, so thank you. I will read these 2 pieces, and then if you have questions, we can engage in that conversation as well. So this is Tuesday, March the 8th, 2022. My ex-husband called this morning to see if he could help by sending money and spreading the word in San Diego. He asked, "Tell me about a typical day." Well, what an interesting turn of phrase, is there is no typical day. Getting coffee and starting a fire in the downstairs fireplace is where typical ends. But one does look forward to the coffee and the warmth of the fire, dare I say. We count on it in a world where counting on anything is a precarious business. 28 refugees in your house quickly converts a person's thinking from the theoretical to the actual. No longer do I speak in the abstract. Every night as I climb into bed, I am struck by the visceral and the practical in each minute of my day. I never knew one could contain so many emotions and complexes in one body, and then to multiply that by 28 is what the house and the land must support. And then remembering the Nazis that drove up the driveway in 1940 to take Zofia and Christoph to Ravensbrück and Majdanek, respectively, is the atmosphere at Shehof. While there is no actual threat to Poland, the Poles and the Ukrainians share the same memories of an ancestral past, which is still tangible, real, not imagined. We have 6 families, including 1 pregnant woman expecting her first child, 4 other children, and 2 teenagers. We have a 6-year-old master chess player who is a Ukrainian national treasure. She took subtle delight, though measured in her display of confidence, as she has impeccable manners and clearly didn't want to boast, to beating the socks off Paul. She takes the game of chess quite seriously, and yet she had a slightly turned up smile during the game, which set the tone from the first move who the winner would be. Poor Pavo was massacred. He turned the king on his side. He fell on his sword. Still, she insisted on shaking hands at the finish. She carries her baby dolls around and makes direct eye contact with you. She doesn't run from anything. She plays the recorder like Zbigniew Preisner. The women rake leaves, cook, and clean with a formidable commitment. There is no hesitation. They make soup like a 15th century alchemist. I don't know why there are some women who rarely come out of their rooms, the older ones. I don't know whose husband is alive and whose husband is dead. I do know that most have lost their homes, and in some cases, their pets they had to leave behind. I don't know about their friends. I do know that their lives are changed forever. Home is no more. Now they have to cling to each other and rely on the goodness of strangers. They must eventually consider who will be the best host country, who will take them, what language will they be, what language will be the easiest to learn, who will have work. They have the daunting task of rebuilding their lives, and perhaps with an incomplete family. Daria is expecting her first child, a little girl. Daddy is moving around the Ukraine. Will she start off life with him, or will she grow up with only stories told about him? For the past near 20 years, I have told the story of Rose and Henry Kiniewicz and how they arrived in Scotland with only the clothes on their backs, without a penny to their names. Every morning, I look into the eyes of this memory, the memory of my mother-in-law, the memory of all who made it out of Poland in 1945 alive. There are half laughs, moist eyes, deep sighs, distant looks. Every morning there is something to touch, something real, something tangible, some practicality that needs addressing, a pair of shoes, a needle and thread, a pair of slippers, a bottle brush, cough drops. Well, do I pray? Of course I pray. Do I know there are angels around us? Of course I do. I know there are, because I know there are. I just no longer think about the women as I did the women from Yemen and Syria, whom I thought about with great concern, but only thought about, only imagined and theorized about. Today, I have coffee with these women, these Ukrainian women, and we just sit together. Very few words are exchanged, but the care and the love at that table, the power in it is enough to give birth to a new star. All women and children all over the world who have been forced to flee their homes, their lives because of the tyranny of evil sits in spirit with us. March 27th, 2022, day 32. Natasha is from the Dnipro area of the Ukraine. She speaks both Russian and Ukrainian, but I think most of the time she is speaking Russian. She is a force. Her dark, flashing eyes are quick to size up a situation. For example, on the morning after her late arrival, she right away noticed the orangeria, the room filled with donations, and didn't hesitate a minute to collect a bag of things for her family. It is rare to see a man traveling with the women, but her son has brain cancer, so was permitted to leave for medical reasons. He's 37, his wife and 2 children are also with him. Natasha wasn't here but 3 days when she took over as commando-in-chief in charge of the kitchen. She enlisted Irina as her deputy, and together they made what the Poles call pierogi ruski, potato and cheese-filled dumplings, sausages wrapped in a yeasty dough, and a pot of mashed potatoes that stood the size of an average 3-year-old. I couldn't imagine what in the world she was planning to do with all those potatoes until the next day when she sweeps through the kitchen boasting a plate full of minced stuffed potato patties that have been deep fried. I think they're called zirazi, and I want her to sell them. We have a window in the kitchen that was open and selling burgers to the students in the village before the virus. This window would be perfect for Natasha. It's like a metaphor, this window. She opens it in something of her sorrow, her experience now of exile, the broken heart of a mother with a sick child. Her traditions are exchanged hand to hand. Let not her creative offering be eclipsed or hidden away because of the cruel and vicious circumstance of war. No, Natasha is not a non-person. Historically, the table was the central nervous system of the house. It was usually in front of the fireplace where the cooking was done. In fairy tales, it's prominent, as is food and cooking and feasting. When we celebrate together, we typically cook and dine together. We break bread together. We drink wine together. We share our recipes. We restore ourselves from sickness to health with a warm bowl of bouillon or a cup of herbal tea. Over the years, however, the table has come to serve as more of a decorative feature in the modern home. I am not implying that there are not those who don't still cook for themselves and serve at the table, but with the advent of restaurants and takeout options, including delivery of prepackaged foods, the table has become more versatile, not carrying the same psychological weight of times past. Certainly not the same mythology. Its function is not exclusively a place to gather and eat, but now doubles as a place of work, a place where we can stack our mail, papers, books, and other non-food items. With the rise of the machine and the modernization of our daily lives, we have demythologized our cultural habits. To see a lineage of women in a house, such as a grandmother, mother, daughter, sharing in the responsibilities of the household duties, is a rare sight. And where this lineage is evident, it's often uprooted by war and the genocidal impact of war, leading to complete disruption and ultimate exile. This is only one aspect of the domestic life, heretofore cared for by women, which has been endangered for the whole of my adult life. The table as the central nervous system, as the central gathering place, as the heart of the household. The table has also been threatened by extreme poverty in some countries. I am remembering a book that took me by storm called Evicted, Poverty and Profit in the American City by Matthew Desmond. This book offers an unequivocal, unflinching portrait of the inner city public housing disaster in major cities in America. In it, he writes, if poverty persists in America, it is not for lack of resources. We lack something else. I realize it must seem I am far afield from Shehoof and the resident women living and cooking and creating as best of a temporary life here as possible. Not at all. What is happening around the globe is a war on women, and it's not exclusive to the Ukraine. Women and children are forced into exile daily, either because of a strong military presence enforcing school closures or no running water, are put out of their homes because of non-payment, leaving them out in the cold with nowhere to go. Food shortages, the stories are literally countless, and it is the most vulnerable among us affected. What is it that something we lack as a civilization? How is it that this problem continues to escalate with no stoppage in sight? Women are struggling everywhere, and there are few foundational support systems in place that protect them or that restore them when they have been compromised. And I haven't even touched upon the subject of human trafficking, but you can count on there being young victims of this sort of exploitation resulting from the war in the Ukraine, where families have been forcefully torn apart. Ina is our resident grandmother's daughter. She is the sister of the one who made the harrowing journey from Kyiv with their mother, who went into hospital the day after she arrived. Ina lives in the UK and is preparing the documents necessary to relocate them both. Ina hadn't seen her mother since last April when she was in Kyiv visiting. She arrived to Shehoof yesterday. When she walked into the hospital, her mother said, "Did you bring the chicken?" Food and how we depend upon it, how it informs our family traditions, our relationships, and our memories. The table, the place where we cry, laugh, eat, celebrate, argue, share friendships, where we bond with each other, where intimacy is central. This is what we bring with us into exile, what travels with us everywhere we go. From generation to generation, it is the food, the recipes, the traditions that we long to preserve. There is not a day that passes when I don't feel tremendous privilege in the presence of these women who come today, every day, around the table. I will stop here for today, as there is so much to say on the subject of food and the table. I don't often say it, but your prayers really do hold us together here. Thank you. And I just wanted to say one more thing. The reason I'm really so croaky and tired is I was up last night at 3 a.m. because we received 2 more families, 7 more people, and now we're really at the absolute cracking point. I think we're up to 40 people now. So we don't have room for a goldfish. It's just...
Amber, first, I just want to honor your ability to bring us these stories in such a way that it's like an essay I might read in, the Sun magazine or the New Yorker. They're just stunning Beautiful. And it helps us understand what you're doing. And I want you to tell us how we can help. I know Elizabeth is going to put in the chat room the link to your foundation. But if you could tell us the best way we can help you and your current plan, which I realize is upside down every day, but the long range plan.
The long range plan is to develop a work study program. And right now we are in an organizational mode. The best thing to probably do is start farming or gardening, or it seems to be what the women want to do. But, there are other things here to do as well. So cooking, of course, is one thing. We've already hired Natasha to be the cook. So she's on payroll cooking. Anyway,
they can donate
and then
to
a
your
study
foundation.
and then a study program whereby they can learn to speak Polish. So in the morning they would be working, and in the afternoon studying Polish. And the reason for this is so that if they do decide to stay here, they can acclimate more easily. They'll have the language behind them. We'll give them letters of reference, and then they can, go on their way. So that's the plan.
Okay. I want to just say, does anybody have any questions for Amber about her foundation and the work they're doing and what's happening in Poland? Anything at all? Or you just want to thank her for being here with us? You can unmute yourself or raise your hand in your screen. Anybody at all wants to jump in, please. And then Elizabeth's putting the link to the foundation where you can donate to help with this very long-term educational initiative.
We have a hand up for Diana L.
Okay.
Diana, you're on the screen.
Hi, Diana.
Please feel free to unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, you're still muted, Diana. There you go.
Okay, it didn't allow me for a minute. Thank you
I know,
very much, Amber. It's
Thank you,
beautiful.
Diana.
And I'm so grateful. Thank you for doing this, Laura. I'm not smart enough to open the link, but can we give in US dollars, and is it secure it will get to you? So I'm asking the dead practical question.
Yeah, sure. And that's the reason. Yeah, that was the reason for the War Diaries, because we didn't want any government help. We wanted to do this as an NGO, so that everything is transparent. Anybody can see these accountings. Anybody can look at what we've spent, for these women to, eat and medicine and shoes and clothes and so forth. So there is a link, and I'm probably not any more clever than you are about opening it, but it is there, and you can donate by PayPal, I believe, and I think they're I don't know, they keep changing it, but I think it is just PayPal now.
It is PayPal. It's currently PayPal on your website, direct. So there is.
But I also wanted. Oh, sorry. I
Go
was
ahead.
going to tell Diana that the new baby, Daria's baby, she's going in for a C-section on Tuesday, April. Was that the 5th, I think? Anyway, her name is Diana.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome.
Well, I send special love, and can we send messages through the website as well?
I don't see why not. I mean, I think
Okay.
you can. I
Okay.
don't know that for a fact, but yeah.
Okay, good
I'll
enough.
leave that
Let me
with
get out of
Laura.
the way. Somebody
then,
else.
And Amber, I think it's true, right? Because Paul's managing this for you, that anybody who donates will also get on the mailing list, so you can get all the updates and all these beautiful essays from Amber, which I'm on the mailing list. I look forward to it. I haven't read your last one because I was too busy with managing this event, but I'm so excited to read it. And also I'll be doing a follow-up email to everyone who signed up, even including people who couldn't come, with a copy of this video and the link to which will be direct to their website. So I'm going to make it easy for everybody post-event if you're interested. Okay, if you missed the chat room or you're like, God, I missed the link, I've got an email going out tomorrow to everybody. So, and you can share it with your friends. You can share this video with your friends and share Amber's beautiful essays and all of these writers' beautiful essays. Anybody else have a question? Oh, I can't really see the chat room.
Elizabeth Becker, I will add you to the screen. Please unmute.
There you go. It's like the mute delay.
It
Amber,
is a mute delay.
the mute delay. It's okay. We're patient. Amber, I just wanted to ask a question and then offer something. The first question is how do you stay so present and so committed and so strong during times like this with massive upheaval? What's your practice?
So I may look like I'm together, but there are moments when, many moments during the day when you are just, you're not holding it together. It doesn't mean you're screaming or yelling or falling apart, but you are really feeling the tension in the house and the anxiety. And with each new intake or resident that comes, guest that comes here, you know, there's a gathering and people talk and there are the stories that are exchanged and there are tears and there, you know, it's what today I wrote the diary on what is charity. Father Thomas Keating, he passed away a couple of years ago. And, you know, it's really about holding that center of charity. And if you're living in that center of charity and sharing or companioning with those who are suffering, then this helps me quite a bit. I think I'm taking it's really about just stepping out of yourself and recognizing that this is not about you in the sense that it's directly about you. It's only that you are there as a witness and a partner and a companion to those who are suffering. People ask me, can we send clothes? Can we send toothbrushes? And Poland is not at war. Poland still has groceries in the store. Ukraine is being, they are at war. These people are refugees, and it's our duty, it's our call to shelter them and to psychologically protect them as best as possible, as best as we can companion together. So I don't know, that was a long answer, but the days are long, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I bet they are, Amber. And so just the offering that I would have, and I'm sure I speak for everyone, and I don't mean to speak for Laura, is that, you know, I send you my blessing.
Thank you.
I send you my strength, you know, the little bits that I have. And I promise to carry you with me in my days.
Thank you. Really means a lot. Thank you.
I'm sure there's others who feel the same way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amber, I don't want to keep you up all night. I'm sure we could just, you know, want you to read us 100 pages, but I also want you to get sleep and be able to handle your new guests. And
Thank you
all
very
the
much.
events. And then
And thank you for having me.
You will be receiving donations from us. And I look forward to staying in touch with you. If I could get on a plane tomorrow, I would.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
blessings to everybody. And the readings were so beautiful. And Maureen, I thank you.
I also want to say that the other writers, I don't want to keep Amber awake any longer, but if anyone has any questions for Maureen or Nancy or John or Nancy Lapid, then, you know, please feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself and ask them. Anybody at all have any questions? Because a lot happened here today.
I have a question for Maureen.
Come sit here. John has a question for you, Maureen.
Hi, Maureen. In 1968, I went to jail protesting the Biafran genocide. I wanted to know what's the present situation of the Ibo people? What's their condition there?
Unmute yourself, Maureen.
Are you muted, Maureen? I don't think she's hearing me.
Oh,
I can hear you now. It wasn't allowing me to unmute.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, the situation has not been resolved. You know, as recent as last year, there are still, you know, it's now the Hausa Fulani cattle herders and Boko Haram and Islamic Islamic State West Africa that are engaged in massacres of, you know, Igbos. So they're raiding rural communities or small communities, killing them, kidnapping women, you know, just simply, you know, because they need grazing land. And the government has not done anything. There is still an agitation, ongoing agitation for the restoration of, you know, Biafra. They're asking for a referendum or a plebiscite, but the government is not listening. First of all, there has never been an acknowledgement that a genocide even happened. So yes, and of course you've heard about you know, the IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu, who is in jail, but he's not the only one who is leading you know, pro Biafra groups who are agitating for freedom. More than 50 years after the war, the areas that used to be covered by Biafra have not seen much development, even though oil in Nigeria comes from that area. But meanwhile, the president has been constructing oil pipelines to northern Nigeria, across northern Nigeria to Niger, which doesn't have oil. So yes, the atrocities remain, and it's, you know, we're experiencing, you know, it's just simply painful to talk about. Nothing really has changed. So that's where we are right now.
My prayers go with you.
Thank you.
thanks,
Thank
Joanne.
you.
I have a question for Maureen.
Go ahead, Amber.
You know, Maureen, one of the things that, well, I have to ask you, how do you feel about all of this story, these stories that you're telling us being completely overlooked and with no attention paid to them, no help. And then suddenly there's just this massive attention to this situation in the Ukraine. And then before that, there were the Afghanistani people right at the border where I am, 2 hours from my house. But if I had gone there, I would have been arrested. And I wasn't, it's not that I wouldn't have been willing to risk it, but you know, I'm almost 70. I mean, it doesn't seem like the way to go forward. So my question to you is this: what can women do together? Because this is about women. This is not about countries or religions or race. This is about women. They are killing women and children. So how do we gather as a nation, I mean, as a global nation of women? Because governments aren't going to stop it. Money isn't going to stop it.
Amber, first of all, I appreciate the work that you're doing. I want to thank you for what you're doing. If Biafra had people like you speaking up when we were going through the madness between 1966 and 1970, perhaps a lot more people would have been saved. The irony, of course, is that all these nations that you're talking about right now, we are caught in the midst of a larger problem, which is really, you know, competing interest of Western powers. In the case of Nigeria and specifically Biafra, We were an obstacle to Britain, we were an obstacle to France, to the United States. We were actually an obstacle to Russia. And by the way, they were Russian MiGs that were bombing us, and we could see them in rural communities. They were flying right to the ground and pointing guns at us, at school children, at women in the market. The men were not present because they were at war. Yes, you are absolutely correct. It's women and children. Think about, Ethiopia, Tigray, right? Think about the Rohingya, think about Afghanistan, everywhere. It's Syria, women and children. How can women be involved? Of course, you are one person. There are women's organizations that are involved. The UN Commission on the Status of Women has been raising this as an issue over and over. Women without power. What can women without power do? We need to challenge, we need to engage these leaders who sit behind their doors and pontificate what has to happen to us. I think women's voices need to be foregrounded. And so in war, it is generally women and children who suffer. I'm not saying that men are not killed, but the people left behind and often unprotected are women. They're the ones who are, when the armies come in, who do you think they kill? They kill the women and children as a way of getting at, the men who have left them behind, or of getting at the nation. So yes, I think the more we hear women's voices calling attention to this. I used to work with a group, it's called the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. And they emerged, they were probably one of the first, anti-war feminist, anti-war women group, that emerged post-World War I. And part of their goal was that they wanted peace, and that we could never have peace in the world without women. So they were right in many ways. So we really do need to speak up, and I don't know that that political leaders, or that these leaders are generally listening to, women and children. It seems to me that they consider women and children expendable good, expendable, and I'm putting it in quotation mark, expendable objects, not humans, but expendable. So please, women who are here, men who are here, anyone who is here, I think it just simply needs all of us, not just simply women and children, but all of us, really, everybody's voice. It just needs all of us. And like you, I am exhausted. I am exhausted.
It has to come to some kind of crescendo. Like, I was just rereading Strength to Love by Martin Luther King, and he was talking about nonconformity, how there must be nonconformity. And how do we, what is it that's going to happen again, to where we're in the streets and there are these movements toward, I'm just remembering my own time as a teenager, so perhaps that's it, I don't know.
Elaine has a question. Go ahead, Elaine. Unmute yourself. Hi, Elaine.
There we go.
Good to see you here.
Hi, Laura. How are you?
I'm great.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Amber, I have a question for you, although it does apply to all of you who have felt and suffered and have had trauma in your life. Amber, these women that have come to you, first it was shock, fear, perhaps even when they arrived, relief and gratitude. What is the mood in the house now? Is there any sense of hope that there is an end coming here, that they will be able to return home? Do they want to go home? What is the overall mood? Are they bonding? Are they?
Yeah, it's mixed. It's a good question. It's an excellent question. It's a mixed. It's a moving target. Some want to go back when they can. Others have fled as far as the Netherlands because they're afraid that Putin is going to invade Poland, which he's not. I don't think so. But anyway, but still the fear. There is, I would call it just a quiet hesitation. There's this hesitancy in the house, just not really knowing exactly, an apprehension, not knowing which way they're going to, which day, how the next day will unfold. But I will tell you this about the Ukrainian women, never known strong. I mean, they're strong women. They have their children in school, and those kids are studying, and the mothers are with them. They cook every day. They clean. They participate at the table. They're together. So there is this sense of camaraderie, and at the same time, I'm sure, just lots and lots of tears behind closed doors, I would imagine. But they show up. So I guess that's it. They show up to life. And I think that's it. But I think that's how women are. By and large, they show up. I mean, look at Maureen's mother, what she did. I mean, they show up, they take care, they do what needs to be done.
Yes. Strong women are created. They're not born. Yeah. Thank you so much. Aloha.
Thank you, Elaine. Thank you for joining us. Does anybody else have a question or want to just jump in?
Jessica
Please.
has her hand up.
Okay. Do you want to add Jessica to the?
Already done. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Jessica.
Hi, Jessica.
Hi. Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing your words. My mind is just racing with a million questions, but I think the one that I'd like to ask has to do with this idea of how do we help? How do we band together? How do we?
We lost your sound, Jessica.
Sorry,
There
I
we
think I
go.
did that on the phone. This conversation feels like one of those moments where women are connecting to and men to make something happen, but how do you continue it? There are a couple of organizations that were mentioned, but I think I'm asking, like, how did you get that momentum to and ability to accept all of these people into your home and be present and hold space for people? And how do you, like, is the writing and the stories is really important, but like, is there a way that we can like continue the conversation here, or like how do we keep this ball rolling right now? Is that through the emails or?
That's a great question. That's what we asked Maureen.
Yeah.
Maureen, like you don't have enough on your plate.
Or like, yeah, how do we connect and keep I already have like 3 books I want to read and look into those organizations, but as I'm a photographer and I want to do all of these stories, how do I help? I don't have like access to great outlets, but like, so just to keep that conversation, do you think it's through the emails or through this Facebook group or something simple like that?
It's a good question, Jessica. Let's all think about it because we all write together every week, and this is, I don't think this is a question that's going to be answered right now, but I think it's a beautiful exploration. How can we mobilize? What can we do? I've said for years, we have more control since money controls the world. We have more control by how we spend our money worldwide. Right? I think everybody could shut down Amazon in a week if they wanted to. We really do have more power than we think we have, but it's mobilizing.
Oh, Maureen is trying to unmute, by the way.
Who is?
Maureen, and the host is not allowing, it says in the chat.
She's unmuted.
Okay, now I could. It wasn't allowing me to unmute, so.
Okay, what did you want to say, Maureen?
Well, Jessica was asking a question and Amber decided to throw it at me and say, that's what we're asking. That's good, Amber. I love this. I love that, I think we have to continue the conversation somehow. I think we have to be willing to, willing to lend support. I don't think that this is something we can do, just right, just for one moment. It has to, and we actually, frankly, we do need to really lobby these politicians. I hate to say this, because if we are not talking, if we are not indicating that we want to resist these acts, they're not going to listen to us, because eventually they're the ones who are also leading some of these, causing some of these problems. We have to be willing to talk across boundaries and, fight, just as, the young generation started the fight, for climate change, so that's what we've got to do. This is global. I am doing a lot of work with women at home. I'm not, when I say home, I'm actually talking about the African continent in general, but also women in other areas who are concerned about these issues. So I think there has to be a willingness to work across all sorts of, lines, racial, gender identity, political, God knows what, religious, just simply work across them and not feel that, oh yeah, because I don't share your belief system, or I don't live in the same community as you, I therefore don't want to work with you. That's part of our obstacle.
Mm-hmm. And also, I do have to say, keep writing your stories.
Exactly.
Because stories will change the world. I do believe it. And in our Write for Peace event, I'm going to take some of those stories and offer them to Amber for translation to give to the women there. So we're connecting ourselves to them.
Very cool.
So there's not this, this, oh, it's so far away.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to have our notes slipped under their doors, especially the women that don't come out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's story, poetry, it offers hope, it offers light in a really dark world right now.
Mm-hmm.
And
Lori's hand is up. Lori Sher's hand is up.
Oh,
Laura.
Lori, thank you for raising your hand. And thank you for telling me, Maureen.
Thank you to Laura for putting this together, and to all the writers, the readers, writers, and to Amber too, for your work. I just want to put it out there, and I don't know if it would be something that would be helpful for your women, but I think so. There's a group of therapists that have created a site called It's Complicated, and it's for therapists who want to get more clients, but they also set up a separate section for therapists for Ukraine. And we are doing pro bono therapy. And I don't think they have to be related to the issue of Ukraine. They don't have to be living in Ukraine anymore. So I don't know if that's something that would be helpful for your women, but I thought I'd mention it.
Thank you so much. How do I reach that? It's called Not Complicated.
I'm going to find the link and I'll put it in the, and it's complicated to get on the site, but I will put my email address with the link and then you can get in touch with me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Lori, for that resource.
And Laura, Laura, may I address, Amber asked a question earlier in terms, about how I feel that there's focus on Ukraine. And listen, war, I am so anti-war. I am anti-violence. I'm a pacifist by nature, but I have gone through war. But the thing is that when we talk about war, yeah, and Amber is correct right now, the focus is Ukraine, but all wars are connected. It's the same people who are, implicated in all these wars in terms of weaponry, arms dealing, right? They are all linked. It's the same powers that you find in every one of these wars. So perhaps one of the ways in which we can also address this issue, which might provide some answer to Jessica's question, is to make sure that we're linking all of them to say, hey, this war, look, what is happening in Ukraine is affecting everybody. It's not just simply Ukrainian women and children or Ukraine. It is affecting everybody. So maybe we can link all of them somehow, so that, people, certain wars are not forgotten. And then, the oppression continues, because while this one is happening in Ukraine, there is war happening on the, in the Horn of Africa, North, in Tigray. A lot of people have been displaced into Sudan and, the northern part of Ethiopia. Nobody's talking about that, right? So let's talk about all of them.
Maureen, one thing I love about you.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, there's so many things I love about you, but one thing I love is that you care about everybody. You're not screaming just for Africa. You're a humanist, and you want to see everybody taken care of. And it's a beautiful thing. I never feel, I feel intention from you and intelligence, but I never feel rage, in a sense that you can't communicate through the rage. Your communication is so beautiful.
Thank you, Laura.
I'm telling you, this woman's writing is so good that your book could change the world. So Valerie, Valerie has a question,
and then you have Beth also.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, Valerie.
Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for hosting this. With resistance, I came into today and your class because I've been avoiding suffering, because it just denial. But I, like many people, grew up with my own story of loss. So I am here as a pediatric trauma specialist. If Amber or Maureen would like any, anything I can do for you in terms of working with, I typically work with the parents of children that are going through great loss, and teaching them that everything, it's like Laura says, comes through story. So Laura could do my job if she liked to work with 7-year-olds, which I think she would. And I would offer that to you, my work and my experience. I can put my email in the chat. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's quite a gift.
Yes.
Valerie, Valerie, did you hear Raymond Barfield's talk yet?
Yes, I was there. Yes.
Okay. Because he works with the children who are dying. Thank you for that.
And actually, I was at Pediatrics in Los Angeles at Cedars, and we had a sister program at St. Jude's who is now accepting cancer pediatric patients from Ukraine. They just got 4 of them. And I could work on a connection there if that's helpful for your family who has a child with cancer.
I think it was the husband with cancer.
It's a husband. He's 37.
Yeah.
But for other reasons, if you could, because we just received last night a child, and this was a child with what would you say, severe autism, and then a young man with Down syndrome, and then a girl with epilepsy. Now, I think some of these will be transitioned into Warsaw to facilities that can accommodate them, but some might stay. So it'd be nice to have your email. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, Valerie. And Beth, hi. Thank you for coming, Beth. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Maureen, Laura, Amber, Nancy, thank you. I'm going to be kind of a troublemaker, but not really. I just, I like how the talk has gone to more of a holistic view, even though my whole feeling around Ukraine, I share with everybody just because it is the spotlight. But I just want to I think about this a lot, how we have to look at our own home, and just add in the indigenous women of the tribes of America into this conversation, really, because I don't think we forget, but I think we look outside of our own country, and I understand it's because it's like such a pressing issue, and I just wanted to address all the other countries, Yemen, Syria, all the places that it always hurts the women and children, no matter what. And I just wanted to put that out there and just add that in the fold. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. I really appreciate that. Any other questions, or anyone just want to say anything to anybody? I'm just really honored to have heard all these stories today, and each one was so different, you know, from the one. Every story had its beauty and its lesson. And that's the thing about story. I mean, we're so lucky that we have story in very difficult times. I mean, hopefully this will help Amber. Amber, I'm going to work on maybe cutting a video and getting it out on social media with a link to donations so that we can expand, if you're open, so we can expand the donations and help and have more people come forward like Valerie and say, I have this service, I can do this. And then we're all going to stay in touch, of course, because so many of you write with me. And if you don't, come write with us because it's healing. And also writing for peace is healing. We're going to share stories and we're going to learn how to write a blessing. And those blessings will go across the miles. So I think we should close, let Amber get some sleep, let everybody have their Sunday evenings or late afternoons, depending on where you are in the world. I know some people came in from England. So thank you for the middle of the night, Amber, and you didn't skip a beat. I mean, it's amazing. You're exhausted, but it's like you're just so present, even exhausted. And so thank you for your presence. And yeah, and I will see you all soon in the Zoom room.
Okay.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Laura. Thank
Maureen,
you,
Beth,
everyone.
Amber. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night or good afternoon.
Good night.
Peace.
Bye.